Amnesty International was for me the obvious destination as the biggest human rights organization that really covers all parts of the world and doesn't sort of leave any sort of forgotten areas. So that's really what attracted me to work for Amnesty. Also the fact that Amnesty International is a membership organization. Unlike other organizations, it's that synergy of the work that people like myself do, combined with the effort and the energy and the expertise and the time of volunteers, members all across the world, that really maximizes the what we can achieve. It really depends vastly on the area that that person is investigating. So in my case, I work primarily in crisis, which most often means armed conflict. I also tend to work in certain parts of the world, mostly. I have worked mostly throughout the Middle East and Africa, but I've also worked in Latin America, in parts of Asia and in Europe. But it's really the ability to investigate. In my case, also a knowledge of international humanitarian law and international human rights law, develop a knowledge of the country and the situation and the issues that I'm investigating at the moment. So it really varies considerably. But essentially it's strong investigative ability and knowledge and skills. I have always found that people want to tell their story. We may have to take precaution and protect their identity, but generally, even people who desperately need humanitarian assistance and know that we cannot provide that, it doesn't matter. They want to tell us what has happened to them. They hope that we can help them achieve justice or accountability, or they hope that by highlighting what has happened to them, even if it may not make a difference to them at that point, it may help to prevent those particular atrocities being committed against other people. So it's very rare that people will choose not to share what has happened to them. I go to situations, to countries where the situation is terrible, at the worst time, during wars, in the aftermath of wars. But I have a choice. I choose to go, and I know that I can leave generally when I need to. But that is not the case for the people who live there, who are caught up in these situations, who have to continue with their daily life, to find food for their children, find shelter, and continue to survive in the most challenges of situations. And they do that sometime with while exercising incredible kindness towards other people, and that is the biggest source of inspiration. Is the people that I meet every day, not those, it doesn't come from myself. Obviously, field work, especially for myself and my colleagues who do work in crisis situation, in armed conflict, in wars, is obviously very different than office work. So in the field, it's plans that change sometime at a moment's notice, because a place that was reachable yesterday is no longer reachable today, or a place where it was not possible to go has become now accessible, or there are bombardments, or for a big variety of reasons. The work tends to be very intense, and plans change quite frequently at the last minute, and that's just part of the way things are. In terms of where I stay or what I eat, it depends very much on the situation. Very often I work in places where it's not a normal situation, so it's not possible to go to a hotel because there are no hotels, or if they existed, they are not functioning at that particular time. So other solutions have to be found, which could be staying with people or sleeping in a tent or sleeping in a car, or whatever the situation allows. Often there aren't restaurants, so other solutions have to be found. And there are situations where before going to a certain place, I bring food so that I have some food with me, because food is not readily available. And what is available, it shouldn't be me who uses it, but it's for people who are there. And so if I go from outside, I can bring whatever I need with me. Working in the office is very different. I mean, for me, it involves a lot of contact with people in different places. Some of the field work is also done remotely. It is very rare that you do everything and you finish everything during a field mission. There is usually preparation and follow-up, which means that the contact with people on the ground start before you get there and continue after you leave. There is also a lot of work that we do remotely, which has to do with examining satellite imagery, verifying material which is available on open source. So including a lot of material that was not available maybe 10 years ago, that we now spend a lot more time on. Social media, for example, is an important resource that we have to verify and collect information and examine what's available. So all of that gets done generally at base. Part of it also gets done while we're in the field, depending on connectivity. Sometimes I'm in places where there is no connection, not even phone connection, so that limits what I can do in terms of remote work from those locations. Verification is key, because ultimately that is our most important, that is the most important thing we have to offer: credible, verified information. How we verify depends on what it is that we need to verify. So to give you an example, if I'm in the field investigating the impact of bombardments that have killed civilians, I will speak to survivors, to witnesses from close and from far. I will examine the kind of damage that was caused as a result of that bombardment. I will look for pieces of the munition in order to establish, what was used in that particular bombardment, and that in turn will tell us where it came from often. We'll look for any information that is available on open sources. We'll check satellite imagery to check whether the testimonies that we received about the date and the time of the bombardment tallies with what's available on satellite imagery. So this is one situation. Each situation requires different methods to acquire and to verify information. And the reality is that a lot of the information that we acquire, we cannot verify. And that means that ultimately we don't use quite a lot of the information, because the process is that one starts wide by collecting a lot of information, and then the amount of information that can be verified to a satisfactory level is inevitably a much smaller percentage. The preparation for deploying to field missions, especially in situation where there is a heightened level of risk, of danger, at Amnesty we have a fairly robust process where we undertake some very detailed risk assessment, and we work out what mitigating measures we can take to ensure that, you know, people like myself and my colleagues who are deployed to the field, that, you know, we do everything possible to ensure our safety, but also the safety of the people that we interact with. And they can be the people that we interview or the people who work with us locally, because we then leave, but the people that we interact with stay. And so the risk assessments that we carry out concerns everybody's security, our own, but also that of the people we interact. And the process is detailed, and we have discussions with people who are working in the area, people who are living in the area, security experts, and sometimes we decide that the circumstances do not permit to deploy at a certain time in a certain place, and that risk assessment remains very dynamic throughout the deployment. So we review our actions every day and our plans for the following day, and sometimes plans change not just at a day's notice, but at 10 minutes notice, responding to developments on the ground. So that's quite an important part of the work. And in terms of the sort of the well-being, more the emotional side, that really applies for people who go to the field, but also to people who work at headquarters or back at base, because examining videos, images, speaking to people remotely can be as traumatic as seeing it sometimes. So we do have a certain number of measures in place for all the staff who are confronted with that kind of work. And again, how then each of us works with those situations is very personal. And it differs. The most important thing is that each of us is aware that these are difficult situations that can have an impact on us and on our families and those who are close to us, and that we find whatever best way to deal with it, whatever works best for us as individuals.